I had been hearing stories for months about an old hospital that was shut down and abandoned about 30 years ago. The hospital was shut down, supposedly, because a group of doctors got caught doing unethical experiments on people. Well, Kira, my friend, and I love to go explore haunted, abandoned locations. We film these locations and upload the videos to our online feeds. I mentioned the hospital to her. She was excited to go there. After all, we'd never been to a real abandoned hospital before. Kira, we know it's not that far. It can't be that one. I'll put the address into the GPS and we'll go check it out. We can do a drive-by to see if there's any security. I pushed the screen down on the laptop she was using. Fine. Come on. Let's go so we're not out somewhere in the wilds when the darkness comes. I held the door for her and she came outside. How are you going to choose which address to enter? You have 5. She got into the passenger seat of my old Ford Ranger and rolled down the window. I'll pick one at random and put it in. If it turns up nothing, I'll move to the next one. After all, they're all in the same zip code. I punched in the first address. Did you grab the gear bag? Kira looked over the back of the seat. Yes, dear, I said, imitating an old man's voice that earned me a punch to the shoulder. The GPS guided me 2 hours away from home. That was nearly 200 miles. Thankfully, almost all of that mileage was on the interstate and a couple of highways. I followed directions off the interstate and got into a rural, winding road. The sun was high in the sky, but as I followed that twisted road, it narrowed and meandered through a dense forest where the light had trouble reaching the ground. Kira looked up at the trees in the sky as I drove. She looked like a tourist beholding her first skyscraper. It's like permanent twilight in here. I don't think I like this at all, Matt. Maybe we should turn around. Kira, this road has to let out somewhere. Look, if it looks the least bit hinky, I'll keep driving, okay? The GPS indicated that our destination was 200 feet ahead on the left. The place where it told me to turn in didn't have an access, though. The little bridge had been torn down, or nature had eroded it away until there was nothing left but the I-beam steel frame. As I eased the truck past the access point, I glimpsed the run-down remains of a huge building. Oh my god, Kira, that's it. It really does exist. I pulled the truck off into the grass and jumped out, excited at our find. Kira slowly climbed from the cab and eyed her surroundings with disdain. She liked the woods well enough, but something about these woods bothered her. Matt, I think I might just wait here. I don't know if I want to go over there. With the gear bag already on my back and my walking stick in hand, I stopped, just shocked. What do you mean, Kira? This is why we came out today, do you remember? Come on. I needed my ace camera operator. This could be the one where we find something truly fantastic. We could expose some huge secret. I pointed to the little camera case on her side of the truck behind the seat. Rolling her eyes and groaning, she flapped her hands at me. Fine. But if I die today, it's totally your fault, and I'm gonna haunt you for the rest of your life. She grabbed the camera and reluctantly followed me across the framework of the bridge. As we walked into the clearing, Kira took out the good camera and started filming. The place was amazing. It was huge. The parking lot was about 2 acres of pavement that surrounded the 6-story building. The top floor had broken windows and some crumbling facade, but otherwise, the building's structure seemed intact and solid. Carefully, we approached the building. There was police tape broken and flapping in the breeze, tied to the main entrance doors. They actually had handles and no sign of our modern motion detecting doors that open automatically. Wow, this is awesome, Kira. Look at all this old stuff. I pointed to the door handles and the tall ashtrays lining the breezeway before the door. People actually smoked at hospitals back in the day. There were still some butts in the ashtrays as we walked to the front door. Pulling on the handle, the door opened silently and easily. Kira and I stared at each other, confused. Usually, abandoned buildings don't have doors that open that easy. If at all, they're usually boarded up. Clearing her throat, Kira asked, "Okay, so where is this experiment lab located? I want to hurry and be done here." "It's in one of the basement floors." I dug our flashlights out of the gear bag and handed her one. "Well, how many underground floors does this monstrosity have?" Either 3 or 5, depending on who you ask. Look, we'll just take a look at the floor plan. They're hanging on the wall so people know how to get out of here. All hospitals had those plaques on the walls. I searched the enormous lobby and found one. "Kira, over here. This says there's only 2 lower levels." "Good. Less to worry about. You know I don't like basements." She shuddered and motioned for me to go on and lead the way. She followed me down the stairs to the second basement floor. It was darker than a serial killer's mind down there. The flashlight seemed to barely penetrate the thick blackness. The pencil-thin lines of light stretched out far away from us. I couldn't see for shit, and my heart began to race. Kira pressed up against my arm and laced her arm through mine. "Matt, let's go, please. Something doesn't feel right. Just all feels so off. It's nothing like the other abandoned places we've been to before." She tugged lightly at my arm. "No, just get us some good footage. We're okay. We really are." Or at least I hoped. I didn't want to show my own trepidation and scare her even worse. Kira began filming the large open basement. With the camera's bright light, the shadows fled and we could see much better. Hundreds of feet stretched out in front of us, with only the large square support columns to hinder our view. I whispered, "See? Mostly just old office furniture and old equipment. They probably use this as storage." I smiled into the camera as she turned my way. There was a sudden sharp rap from the other end of the basement. It echoed to us and Kira yelped in surprise. Training the camera's light in the direction of the sound, she backed up until she stood against the wall, breathing erratically. I wasn't in much better shape, but I tried to hide it from her. Probably just the sounds of the old building settling or something. I stared hard in that direction, scanning for any sign of movement. The "or something" part is what worries me, Matt. Let's go. I mean, seriously. I shushed her and eased forward toward the other end of the basement. Kira didn't move. About halfway through the basement, I noticed a large opening on the left. It looked like a corridor. However, that wasn't marked on the plaque in the lobby. I whistled to Kira and motioned for her to follow me. She walked across the open expanse and we entered the corridor. The floor was built on a downward slant and ran for at least 80 feet. That's as far as I could see. There were offshoots on either side at intervals, just smaller hallways that seemingly led into darkness. I stepped into one of these smaller hallways and shone my light around. There are no doors here at all, Kira. What are these halls? Are they for maintenance access, do you think? She filmed past me. I don't think so. But let's follow it. Let's see where it comes out. And I, feeling braver, well, we both walked swiftly, hoping to find some amazing secret thing down there. The hall seemed to go on forever. It was also on a slight downward slope and turned to the left, so that after walking for 3 minutes, we couldn't see the spot where we had been standing. Another 3 minutes of walking through the completely empty corridor, and we spotted doorways. 2 on each side, and the dead end of the curtain hall. They all looked identical, so we chose the first one on the left. It was level at least, and mostly straight, but there were several doors on either side of this hall, and without thinking we would get lost, we chose a door at random and entered. It was getting exciting now. There must be some huge secret at the center of that labyrinth of hallways. Soon, we noticed that the air felt heavier, thicker, and even older. It was harder to breathe. We were forced to slow our pace, and just when it seemed we had come up completely bust on this excursion, a thick glass wall reflected the light of the camera. We both stopped, startled. Laughing, I said, "Whew, I thought someone else was down here for a minute there." Kira agreed and raised her camera again, shining the light towards the glass. "Why is that there?" she gasped. "I bet that's the lab. That's where all the experiments happened." And she rushed forward to try to see into the room behind that glass wall. And that's when I saw the thing for the very first time. It was a tall figure whose head reached the ceiling. Skinny. Black. It had a humanoid shape except for the several elongated arms I saw in that glance. I was so scared I couldn't even scream. Kira had inadvertently removed the thing's shroud of shadows as she ran to the glass wall, and I had only caught a glimpse of it as it recoiled into deeper shadows. Finally, I found my voice and called, "Kira, we really need to leave right now." Very quietly, very slowly, "Come to me." And I locked my eyes with her, and I motioned her to come here. And wouldn't you know it, she actually laughed. "Right, Matt, now that you've found something you want to go. Like you said, there's nothing down here that's dangerous." She turned back to the glass, her light once again uncovering the tentacle shape, and once again, it recoiled from the light. "I can't believe you're trying to scare me now. Matt, you're such an ass." I turned my light toward the thing, but I couldn't see it. I reached for Kira's arm and pulled her roughly to face me. "Kira, do I look like I'm playing? Let's go. The thing is right over there." I pointed to the last place I'd seen it, and her eyes followed. "Come on." "Matt, that's a lab. You should look in there. I see nothing over there." She pointed her camera light into the darkness. The thing was fast, and we only caught a glimpse again as it recoiled into what looked to be another room, or maybe another hallway. I wasn't going to find out. We were leaving, running back in the direction that we thought we had come, lights bobbing through the syrupy darkness. I became disoriented. Everything looked exactly the same. We stopped to try to retrace our entry. Kira suggested watching the recordings as we turned through the hallways. Brilliant. And that's why I love you so much, Kira. As she searched quickly for the section we needed in the recording, she asked, "What was that thing?" "I don't know. Maybe that experiment gone wrong tale was actually true. They were trying to make a better soldier, a killing machine, one with no conscience. They wanted to get rich by supplying the military with these things, but in all honesty, I just thought it was a myth, a urban legend. Looking over her shoulder into the darkness, Kira shuddered. Stop. Okay, here it is. We started watching the footage. She hit fast forward and we kept watching. It seemed hopeless. Everything looked too similar. We need to find the hallway that had a dead end, and then we could retrace our steps easier. Kira nodded. Okay, let's go. And that's when something slithered around a corner behind us. We ran in a full panic for the nearest hall entrance and bolted headlong through it without pause to consider our direction. I didn't much care where we were going, as long as it was away from that thing. Still running, I turned left. Kira was on my heels and slammed into a glass wall. Is this the same one we saw from before? Kira's voice was high and cracking from stress. It can't be. We didn't go in a circle. I raised my flashlight to look inside. And there was that thing, that abomination pressed against the glass. Kira screamed. The humanoid shape on the other side of the glass mimicked her scream as its extra arms moved up and down the glass wall, seeking for a tiny crack, a way out. The face had no eyes and only two tiny holes for nostrils. Protrusions from the sides of the head pulsed. The mouth was black like the rest of the thing, and open like a snake's maw to reveal several close rows of tiny, glistening carnivore teeth. The body was heavily muscled and covered in that same black skin, smooth and almost shiny. Kira pointed to one of the arms and screamed again. This time the camera fell from her grip and she bolted in the opposite direction. And that arm ended without a hand, and there was an eyeball in the tip of the tentacle, which it pointed at me through the glass. My legs were like jelly, and I couldn't even draw a breath. Another eyeball appeared, and the thing emitted a high wail that caused me to cover my ears. It began to pound at the glass wall with the other tentacles that terminated in hands. As I was screaming, there was an answering cry from somewhere to my right. My body returned its loyalty, and I yelled for Kira. I took the camera, thinking only of the light, and ran in the direction I'd seen her go. Kira! She yelled, far away, so I ran in that direction and heard her yell again. Rounding a corner, the camera was snatched from my outstretched arm and broken against the floor. And that same slithering sound was directly beside me. And I froze. Something moved at the end of the hallway, and the creature ran there. Kira stepped out of nowhere and pulled me into a tiny space, shushing me and holding my mouth. I turned on my light and saw that we were inside the wall. There were metal rungs attached to the concrete of the wall a few feet ahead. I pointed and slided in that direction silently. We climbed this weird ladder to a ventilation shaft, and I looked through it, shining my light back and forth. It was the lobby, or at least I thought it was. And I told Kira, I think I still see daylight outside. Get us out of here then. Kira nudged the back of my thigh with her flashlight. I pushed at the vent, but it didn't move, and I pulled, but nothing. Using the opposite wall for leverage, I turned sideways and used my feet to push the vent and braced my back against the opposite wall. And Kira screamed to me. I think I just heard it. It's in the wall with us, Matt. Move! Straining with all my strength, I heard the thing slithering and sliding up the close walls. I gave a massive, forceful kick, and the vent finally gave. I barely was able to catch myself before falling into the darkness with that thing. I climbed out quickly and grabbed Kira's arm as she clambered to the last rung, dragging her roughly over the bent metal of the vent. Kicking furiously, she screamed. As her leg emerged from the wall, one of the tentacles wrapped around her left ankle and pulled at her, and the unearthly shrieking from inside the wall became louder. Using my light, I bashed it against the tentacle until it released Kira. I fell forward, my face at the edge of the vent. My flashlight spun on the floor and came to rest with its beam trained on that thing. The tentacles had spread, pressing against both walls in there. It needed no ladder to climb, and the body hung suspended amid those writhing tentacles. It retreated from the light, and we headed for the door without my flashlight. Kira and I might have lost a damn good camera and even better footage of that place and those creatures, but we both have souvenirs. My hands suffered severe chemical burns where the thing grabbed the camera from me. The same happened to Kira's ankle. Part of her bone was exposed by the time we reached the emergency room. The diagnosis was exposure to abrasive chemicals. The doctor said we're permanently scarred, but we're lucky to be alive.